JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is an anime known for many different things. Its art style, characters, and fashion are all examples of what people may typically bring up in conversation about the anime. And as someone who's a huge fan of the series, I can't help but want to talk about and explore the thing I love most, its deeper themes. So that is exactly what I'll be doing today. Specifically with the latest part, the JOJOLands, and what I think we can learn from the first arc in relation to the teachings of manifestation by Neville Goddard and some of the teachings from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'll try my best to break down the evidence of JoJo living in the end state and what that means, how Rohan Kishibe acts as the gatekeeper to Napoleon Hill's secret, and explore how Howler's fundamental misunderstanding of the mechanism guarantees his failure in this first arc. In the JOJOLands, Araki introduces us from the very beginning to a world of mechanisms. But what is a mechanism? The literal definition of the word is as follows: a system of parts working together in a machine, and a natural or established process by which something takes place or is brought about. In the case of the JOJOLands, so far we've seen Jodio call anything that seems to be a natural process in life a mechanism. He narrates the first example of this when he talks about his reasoning to go to school. He doesn't see school as a means to learn or make friends, rather he sees it as a mechanism, something that will eventually bring him wealth. Another example of this is during Usagi's introduction to the crew. Jodio wonders to himself if Usagi joining their team is also part of the world's mechanisms, stating, "Whenever you make a team, you always get one oddball," something that Jodio seems to believe to be true about the world. To me, the way he describes his belief makes it seem like he thinks of it as almost a systematic certainty. The quote, "This is the story of me becoming filthy rich," reflects this certainty. You could argue that the reason he says it this way is because it's a future version of himself narrating past events, but with Araki being the writer he is, I just don't think that's the case. And even if it was, I think the point I'm trying to make is still going to be valid. Notice Jodio's phrasing. He isn't saying, "This is a story of how I hope I can become filthy rich," or "This is the story of how I may become filthy rich." The way he says it is certain. He says, "This is the story of me becoming filthy rich." It's presented almost as fact to the reader, as if he knows he's already rich. This is where I believe the theme of the JOJOLands perfectly coincides with the teachings of Neville Goddard. Goddard's entire philosophy centers around what he coined as the law of assumption. In Goddard's lectures, one of the principles of the law of assumption is as follows: we must affirm that we already are that which we hope to be, and live as though we were, knowing that our assumption, though false to the outer world, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Essentially, Goddard is saying that your 3D or physical experience is you being the witness of your own creation or beliefs. You already know what you desire, you already know that you're aware of this desire, and the only thing left is becoming the believer to witness this desire come to you physically. The way Jodio says, "Whenever you make a team, you always get an oddball," after meeting Usagi, suggests that, to Jodio, this is simply a confirmation of his assumption of teams. Because Jodio believes you always get an oddball in a team, the world's mechanisms work to give him an oddball to join his team. In my opinion and interpretation, the parallels between these two ideas are almost impossible to ignore. Jodio is the embodiment of Goddard's teachings. He doesn't state that he simply desires wealth or wants to be filthy rich. His internal psychological state already assumes that the wealth is his, and he's simply operating the mechanisms of this world to let the reality of his wealth catch up. Another quick parallel that I think is worth talking about is that in the first page of Goddard's lectures, he references how the name God is actually spelled in symbols. These symbols roughly translating to the spelling being JODHEVAUHE. The first letter being JOD, symbolized by a hand or a seed. Quote, "Not just a hand, but a hand of the director. Man's hand fashions, it molds. You cannot express yourself without the hand. This is the builder's hand, the hand of the director. It directs, it molds, and it builds within your world." Now, keen-eyed viewers may already spot the similarity between this ancient spelling of God being JOD and, well, Jodio's name. What we thought was just a cool mashup of JoJo and Dio might actually have some more meaning than we initially believed. Still not convinced? Well, let me ask you this. What pose do we constantly see JoJo in? A pose so seemingly goofy that it's been memed by the community. That's right, JoJo standing front and center with both hands up. To me, seems like another direct parallel from the JOJOLands to Neville Goddard's teachings. And while doing the research for this video, I tried to find the best depiction of these symbols, and this is what I found. I mean, like, come on, just look at this. This is this is what literally blew my mind, like, when I found it. I think this is honestly what convinced me to finish writing this video, because simply to me it was like a confirmation of what I already believed to be true. Now, I know I'm jumping around a bit, but I promise this is going to make some sense to what I'm trying to say. Earlier, I referenced a book titled Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you're familiar with the teachings of manifestation, then you might have already heard of it, but if not, I'll give a brief summary of what the book is about. In short, Napoleon Hill writes about his belief that thoughts become reality. He argues that anyone can achieve success, wealth, and personal fulfillment by simply adopting a specific mindset, establishing clear goals, and then taking action to reach these goals. A quote from the preface of the book reads as follows: "Every chapter of this book mentions the money-making secret that has made fortunes for more than 500 exceedingly wealthy people whom I have carefully analyzed over a long period of time. The book contains this secret, which has been put to a practical test by thousands of people from every walk of life. The secret to which I refer has been mentioned no fewer than 100 times throughout the book. However, it has not been directly named, for it seems to work more successfully when it is merely uncovered and left in sight, where those who are ready and searching for it may pick it up. I wish I could tell you how you will know you are ready, but that would deprive you of much of the benefit you will receive when you make the discovery in your own way." In Chapter 5 of the JOJOLands, right before JoJo leaves from Rohan's mansion, Rohan calls to JoJo, telling JoJo he has something he'd like to say only to him. Quote, "If you're going to take that, then a responsibility comes with it. If you handle that lava rock with care, then you'll be able to become filthy rich. Such a mechanism will gradually become yours. A law of nature lies in that lava rock. Go ahead and want. Embrace ambition. Don't lose heart. Climb higher." JoJo then asks Rohan, "What is this lava rock? Are you going to tell me?" With Rohan replying, "You're the one that drew the card. I'm only leaving it in your care. I'm not giving it to you." I believe this passing conversation to be a parallel to Napoleon Hill's preface in Think and Grow Rich. Rohan, like Napoleon, isn't outright stating the secret of this mechanism, but he does reveal a small hint at it. The first two chapters in Napoleon's book are titled The Power of Thought and Desire, the Starting Point of All Achievement. In order to use the law of the lava rock, JoJo must begin to desire and become aware of his own desire. It's from that point forward in the story that we see JoJo completely believe in the law of the lava rock and operate himself as if he is living in the wish fulfilled. This living in the end approach is related to Neville Goddard's teachings. You see, Goddard taught that simply wanting or desiring something creates a mental state of lack. For example, if JoJo had simply said, "I desire to become filthy rich," that means, psychologically speaking, JoJo doesn't think he has those riches yet. And in order to manifest the reality, JoJo has to assume the feeling of his desire already being fulfilled. You must think and live from the end, rather than thinking of the end. This is why I put so much emphasis on JoJo's opening quote being, "This is the story of how I became filthy rich," since the way he states that means that he already knows or is already operating from the psychological state of knowing he is filthy rich. Now I would like to go back to Neville Goddard's quote of, "Assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact." And I want to use this quote to look closer at the lava rock and how its mechanism operates in the world of the JOJOLands. Throughout the story, we see that the lava rock doesn't inherently create any value. All it does is bring valuable items to whoever possesses it. In other words, it acts as a physical representation of the psychological belief of the law of assumption. We see this with the watch Dragona and Usagi are able to obtain when testing the lava rock. To fully grasp this, we should look closely at Goddard's phrasing, "if persisted in." This part of Neville Goddard's quote reflects his beliefs, which teach that once you persist in the assumption of already having what you want, you don't have to worry about how your desire will get to you. The universe will create a sort of bridge of incidents that will deliver you your desire, much like a mechanism taking place. This is shown after Dragona and Usagi touch the lava rock to the watch. We begin to see the mechanism take shape within their reality. We see the watch go through a series of events before ultimately reaching them again at the airport when a shady street seller approaches the two, offering to sell them the same exact watch. Both Dragona and Usagi are stunned to realize that it's the exact same watch they touched with the lava rock. Again, I want to emphasize that the lava rock didn't just magically create or teleport the watch into their possession. Instead, it bent the circumstances of their reality to ensure that the watch would gravitate to them. By persisting in the flow of the lava rock's mechanism and not panicking when they didn't get the watch immediately, the pair allowed the real world to catch up to their belief in the lava rock's law. Fast forward to the last couple of chapters in the first arc to Jodio and crew boarding Howler's yacht, and consequently taking all of Howler's assets. At first, Howler is extremely against signing the court order documents that would give Jodio's crew ownership of all of his assets, including his land. But as the story progresses, we see more and more pressures forming against both Jodio's crew and Howler himself. It's then revealed that Howler only has all of these assets and land because his family has a long history of owning these lava rocks. In a flashback, it's seen that a diary is given to Howler with the following phrase written in it: "God expresses all of this world with numbers. Numbers control the flow of this world. God is the lava of Hualalai. With the lighting of the new moon, the breath that spouts from the earth, the footprint of the lightning." This phrase is accompanied with Howler, in the now, noticing a detail about the crucifix he carries with the diary. It's a fulgurite, or fossilized lightning. I interpret this as Araki showing that Howler seems to possess all the tools needed to create a mechanism of his own, but completely misunderstands the philosophy. I believe the diary entry, "God expresses all of this world with numbers. Numbers control the flow of the world," actually refers to the absolute, unbending nature of universal laws, or, in the JOJOLands, mechanisms. However, I think Howler fundamentally misses the point of what the diary entry is trying to teach. In my opinion, Howler seems to think that the physical lava rock itself is what gives him power and wealth. He doesn't understand the flow of its mechanisms at all. He's shown desperately wanting the lava rock near the end of the arc, in reference to how, because he wants it, he psychologically believes he doesn't have it yet, which is why the lava rock never makes its way to him, despite how badly he wants it. This is what makes the final part of this first arc so well written, in my opinion. It shows the contrast between how Jodio and Howler each move through the world. On one hand, Jodio doesn't need a generations old diary to understand the world's mechanisms, while on the other, Howler is having a little bit of a breakdown trying to force his assets to stay with him. Jodio, with his calmer attitude and approach, represents the new way of thinking that allows the mechanisms to work in his favor and therefore allow wealth to naturally flow to him, as he simply assumes it already belongs to him. Speaking of Jodio's personality, I'd like to take a look at these two panels where Dragona explains how Jodio has acted even when he was a child, as I believe this to also be another key aspect on how the JOJOLands links to the teachings of Neville Goddard. We see Dragona explain how Jodio tends to not show emotions on a daily basis. Quote, "He's a boy that says little. When Jodio decides he was going to do something, he would quietly and leisurely head towards it. When absurdities, insults, or failures in the world blocked him from his goal, he would get even more quiet and leisurely. He would simply head towards it. The it being his goal, or by my interpretation, his desire." To Neville Goddard, this type of behavior isn't seen as apathy, but rather it's a mastery of the concept known as the Sabbath and ignoring the 3D reality. Goddard teaches us that when manifesting and operating in the law of assumption, we should look at our reality as if it's dead. Quote, "Your assumption places you psychologically where you are not physically. then your senses pull you back from where you are psychologically to where you are physically. It's these psychological forward motions that produce your physical forward motions in time. Continuing this idea in a later chapter, he says, live your life in a sublime spirit of confidence and determination. Disregard appearances, conditions, in fact, all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your desire. Rest in the assumption that you already are what you want to be, for in that determined assumption, you and your infinite being are merged in creative unity, and with your being, all things are possible. So Jodio, looking past absurdities, insults, and failures, is exactly this. He doesn't allow the current physical circumstance to dictate his internal state. He locks in on his desire and simply heads towards it, unwavering, knowing that anything that goes against his acquisition of desire is simply a small bump in the road. He doesn't react emotionally to a negative present because that would simply recreate a negative future. Simply heading towards his desire is the ultimate proof that Jodio is living in the end, thinking from his end result instead of thinking of his end result. In the teachings of the law of assumption, once you successfully assume your desire, you enter a psychological state coined the Sabbath, defined as a state of complete mental rest. You stop forcing and worrying about the results, and you become entirely unbothered by delays, because you know the outcome is already a systematic certainty, a mechanism, an unwavering, almost stubborn persistence in your assumption, regardless of what the physical world throws at you. Honestly, it's kind of crazy how far I've gotten into the script without mentioning a key aspect of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure: stands. If you're a fan of the series, then you know that stands are physical manifestations of the user's soul, and in turn, their psyche. So I'd like to try my best at dissecting Jodio's stand, November Rain, because yes, even his stand shows links to Neville Goddard's teachings. In case you didn't know, Jodio's stand revolves around gravity manipulation inside of water droplets. He can make it rain in a localized area and manipulate the weight of these falling raindrops. It's a relatively simple stand compared to some of the other bizarre ones we've seen throughout the series, but if you know anything about JoJo stands, it's usually the more simple the stand, the stronger it can be, since due to its simplicity, it can be applied to multiple circumstances. Looking at how November Rain operates, I want to look at 3 key features and link them to 3 key teachings of the Law of Assumption. Number 1. November Rain summons a localized shower of rain directly beneath it and around Jodio. Number 2. November Rain can manipulate the gravity of this rain, adding weight to it. Number 3. November Rain can use the rain to form a deflective barrier of dense water to protect Jodio. Let's start with the ability to summon a localized shower of rain. There's a concept in Neville Goddard's teachings called the mental diet. And in this, Goddard encourages you to see your mind as a garden in which you must strictly regulate what you consume mentally, as this is what dictates your inner mental dialogue and focus, which in turn is what manifests your reality. Jodio's ability to summon this rain around him represents the idea of surrounding yourself with the things that benefit you. With only a range of 3 meters, he's essentially using November Rain to create a localized flow that works entirely for him. Then, there's the ability to manipulate the weight of this rain. By adding weight to the raindrops, Jodio creates a force able to shatter solid objects, put a hole in a yacht, and pin his enemies to the ground. When manifesting, your assumption must carry more psychological weight than your current reality. When your reality presents an obstacle, insult, absurdity, or failure, you should be crushing it completely with the sheer weight of your persistence. November Rain's manipulation of gravity in the water droplets is the physical equivalent of this unseen persistence, physically crushing any doubt trying to stop the mechanism. Finally, let's analyze November Rain's defensive capabilities. It can create a deflective barrier of dense water to protect Jodio. This barrier can stop projectiles from hitting Jodio and is seen being able to wash away foreign objects from inside his body, literally washing away a bullet from inside of his mouth, saving his life. This represents the denying of your senses. When you practice the law of assumption, the outside world will seemingly fire projectiles at you, doubts, negative facts, financial stress, failures, or people telling you that it's impossible. November rain acts as a shield against the evidence of the senses by washing away the negative inputs before they can penetrate Jodio's mind, keeping his internal state clear and reinforcing his ability to enter the mental state of the Sabbath. When you put all of this together, we can see that Jodio, whether consciously or unconsciously, using his stand of water and gravity, is fluid, yet heavy, meaning he understands that you don't fight the world by being physically oppressive. Instead, you should focus on controlling the flow of its mechanisms and applying the unrelenting pressure of your own assumptions. What is your mechanism? So what, if anything, can we learn from the first arc of the JOJOLands? Well, with everything that I've gone over, it's that Araki has hidden one of the oldest, most powerful philosophical teachings of the 20th century inside the story about teenage gangsters in Hawaii. In the JOJOLands, wealth, success, and value don't just happen to you by chance. They're drawn to you by the gravitational weight of your own internal assumptions. As Neville Goddard taught, and as Jodio demonstrates, the world is just a reflection of your own thoughts and inner desires. So a good question or exercise I'd like to leave you with is this. What is your mechanism? What do your desires look like? If you're not sure how to answer these questions, then that's the first step. If it's something like becoming filthy rich like Jodio, for example, you need to desire it with a state of mind knowing that it will come to you with a proper plan, and know that as long as you back this plan with enough persistence that doesn't recognize failure, it will come true. So here's a passage from Think and Grow Rich that can help you find what your desire might look like. Number 1, fix in your mind your exact desire. Be as definite as possible. Imagine every aspect of that desire. If it's money, think of an exact amount. If it's something like a new car, think of the exact color, model, and trim. Or a new job, of all the responsibilities you may have in that new job. How much will that job pay you? The point is to be as specific as possible and keep that image in your mind. Number 2, determine exactly what you will give in return for what you desire. Again, going back to the example of a new job, maybe you'll determine that every day for an hour before bed, you'll update your resume or apply to a different job postings or research a contact to cold outreach to. Number 3, create a definitive plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you're ready or not, to put this plan into action. Number 4, write a clear, concise statement of the desire you plan to fulfill. This is where you will write out a sentence of everything you've identified in the previous 3 steps. For example, the statement I would make with this channel is something along the lines of, I've created and will continuously support a YouTube channel that allows me to create any type of content I want. It's a new avenue of success that I have the pleasure of experiencing every day. I will maintain my schedule to allow me to come up with meaningful content ideas, and I plan to dedicate a total of 7 hours or more per week to come up with video ideas, write scripts, and advance my channel. And number 5, and in my opinion the most important one, read your statement aloud twice daily, once just before going to bed and once right after waking up in the morning. But more importantly, as you read it, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of your desires. If it helps, then move your body as you read it, do a little dance or even just a random stretch, but get yourself into a mental state of knowing you already have what you want. One last thing I wanted to add to this is that some people may have their doubts, and understandably so, about how exactly they'll quote-unquote feel they already have what they want. Some people just find it impossible to live in the end. And to that, I say that if you really want to fulfill your reality, and I mean you really want it, you're going to feel yourself go towards it filled with determination. There may be setbacks along the way, times where you don't feel like putting in the work, or what you want might just feel impossible. But as long as you truly believe your desire is already achieved, nothing is going to stop you from getting what you want. Alright, well I've yapped long enough already. I would love to know in the comments, do you think Araki actually studied the teachings of Neville Goddard? Or is the law of assumption just where the bizarre adventure ended up and it's all a coincidence? If you liked this analysis, it would help a lot if you hit those like and subscribe buttons for me down below. This is a new project that I've been thinking about making for the longest time, and now I'm actually doing it, so any support on the channel just means so freaking much to me. If you have any thoughts on the subject, I would love to discuss in the comments below, and until my next video, remember to keep your eyes on the flow of this world's mechanisms. Have a good one.